Have you ever had a steamy hookup turn out to be a bloodthirsty creep who's a little too obsessed with his brother? If you have, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Let's take a walk down to Mystic Falls, Virginia. Our episode 3 cold open has us pick right back up the morning after the attack on Caroline Forbes. It would seem almost peaceful, the sunlight flooding her bedroom, illuminating her in her baby blue nightie laying on her back fast asleep. But as the camera climbs up to Caroline's face, we get a glimpse of the fresh wound on her neck, still wet with blood. Her eyes slowly flutter open, and it seems like the memory of the night before floods back in all at once, because she bolts upright, hand flying to her neck to make sure the whole thing wasn't just a bad dream. Worse than the physical proof on her neck is the physical proof lying in bed beside her. A nightmare come to life. Damon is still sprawled out in her bed, fast asleep. Sleeping like the dead, one might say. As quiet as she can, Caroline gets up and tiptoes across the room. It's a real hold your breath along with her kind of scene. Every little creak in the floor makes you nervous. We know vampires have super hearing after all. Super hearing that makes Damon even more difficult to escape in this particular moment. When Caroline reaches the door, she peeks back over her shoulder to make sure Damon hasn't woken up, and gets the worst surprise ever. Chipper as always, he appears in front of her, cocky smile on his face as he greets her good morning. There's not many options for Caroline here. She backs up, nervously glancing around the room before grabbing her lamp off the bedside table and swinging it right at Damon's chiseled jaw. It barely phases him, though. His flinch is more suited to if she slapped him lightly across the face. I do have to give it to her. Caroline doesn't give up after just one attempt. She's a fighter. Despite how little the lamp does, she still keeps flinging things at Damon up until he shoves her back onto the bed, and, with the scent of her blood fresh in his nose again, pounces on Caroline. After we get our title card, we pick up with Bonnie and Elena right outside Mystic Falls High. It seems like Bonnie's vision concerning Stefan the other night really rattled her, because all of a sudden she's doing a 180, trying to convince Elena that she should take things slow with Stefan, maybe even play the field. Elena knows her best friend well enough to sense something is up, and insists that Bonnie tell her what it is. But, of course, like any time anything witchy is brought up, Elena is a bit skeptical about the vision thing. She trusts Bonnie, appreciates her worry, but this is the first time in a while Elena is actually feeling good. Stefan is a big part of that for her, she says. Bonnie is not the least bit subtle in being uncomfortable around him when he greets them outside the school. Caroline's not answering her phone, she says. Time to go look for her. Stefan's not dumb. Bonnie doesn't like him much, does she? He asks. That's not it, Elena assures him. Bonnie's just looking out for her friend. The problem is, she just doesn't know of Stefan yet, but when she does, she'll definitely love him. The best solution for this problem would be inviting Bonnie and Stefan over for dinner at Elena's place tonight, right? That's what Elena thinks, at least. Because he seems to have a spidey sense for stirring up shit. Of course, Tyler is on the school lawn watching the two of them walk and narrating it all to Matt to pick at his nerves. Why is Tyler so pissy about Stefan? Or so overly invested in Matt's love life? Who knows? Matt even asks what Tyler expects him to do about it. Elena already made her choice. Let her know she made the wrong one, Tyler answers, and chucks a football as hard as he can at the back of Stefan's head. In one of the funniest displays of vampire powers, Stefan uses his super speed to whip around just in time to catch the football. He flashes Tyler a mock-friendly smile and tosses it back with enough force to almost knock Tyler off his feet. Looks like we've got a jock vampire on our hands. Very in contrast with how the last episode left off for them, Vicky is actively seeking Jeremy out in the schoolyard, telling him that she scored 2 concert tickets for Saturday night. Jeremy hasn't forgotten her quick turnaround from telling Tyler to fuck off to kissing him at the grill. He doesn't even bother taking off his headphones before telling her to have fun with Tyler. She begs Jeremy to not be like that. She really wants him to go with her. Isn't she worried everyone will know she's screwing the stoner geek, he teases. It's not like that anymore, Vicky insists. They can just be friends and hang out. Hurt, Jeremy lashes out. He wants to know if Vicky was only ever sleeping with him in exchange for drugs, which hurts her right back. But neither of them offers up another explanation, and Jeremy takes off. Elena is still not over Stefan's awesome throw. She didn't even know he played football. He used to. It was a long time ago, he says. Judging by all the other times he'd said something happened a long time ago, I would have to guess this was some 1800s football. Which prompted me to try to look when the American version of football first came onto the scene. I didn't get a totally clear answer on that, but the first on-the-record football game was recorded to have happened in November 1869, just a few years after Stefan's death and rebirth. So, not that unbelievable, I suppose. Elena suggests that Stefan should try out for the team, but he shuts the idea down. Members of the football team don't exactly seem to be a big fan of his, meaning Matt and Tyler. She says they just don't know Stefan yet. He could show them that he's not just some mysterious loner. It would be good for him to make some friends. Very funny concerns when you think about the looming issue of possibly being outed as a monster and your older brother eating innocent people. But Stefan wants to live that normal teen life. In history class, Mr. Tanner is giving a lesson on World War II to a less than enthused class. No one is actually paying much attention. Bonnie is scribbling in her notebook, filling the page with the same 3 numbers, 8, 14, 22. Hold on to those. They'll be important later on. Stefan and Elena specifically are poking the bear, chatting about joining the football team some more when they already know that Mr. Tanner has it out for both of them. And boy does he. Knowing that Elena is checked out, he targets her for his next history question. Stefan chimes in immediately, saving Elena from the embarrassment. Of course he knows the exact date of Pearl Harbor off the top of his head. He was alive at the time. This, of course, pisses Mr. Tanner off even more, and he begins a sort of dick measuring contest with Stefan, who, as far as Mr. Tanner is aware, is just a teenager, so it's 10 times as humiliating when Stefan not only gets every date he mentions correct, but also corrects Mr. Tanner on one that he fumbles. The class breaks out in a mix of laughter and applause over this, and normally I would say it's a bit unrealistic, but if I had a teacher like Mr. Tanner, I think I'd have the same reaction. This back and forth doesn't really serve Stefan well when he accepts the idea of trying out for the football team, though. Because it just so happens to be that, alongside with teaching history, Mr. Tanner is also the coach of the football team. He tells Stefan that varsity tryouts were last spring, and at Stefan pointing out that he wasn't here last spring, Mr. Tanner says that to him, that means that Stefan isn't here now either. Bent on being the bigger person, Stefan apologizes for showing Mr. Tanner up in class today. He's played football before, he adds, and he's pretty good. Mr. Tanner surrenders. Stefan can try out, but only because he wants the pleasure of seeing Stefan get knocked on his ass. Tyler seems to be feeling the same way. When Matt gets all down in the dumps about how Stefan swooped in on not only his girlfriend but now his team, Tyler reminds him that football is a contact sport. Sometimes people get hurt, he says excitedly. As a way to bring things more back to normal, Elena has decided to get back into cheerleading. During warm-up stretches, she not asks, but informs Bonnie that Bonnie will be coming over for dinner tonight. With Elena, yes, but more importantly, with Stefan. Bonnie's attitude immediately sours at the mention of Stefan. Tonight's no good, she says, and switches topics to wondering where the hell Caroline's been all day. Elena tells her not to change the subject, that she's gonna be at dinner tonight. Bonnie reluctantly agrees. I do think it's valid to wonder what's up with Caroline, though. She didn't show up to school, and Bonnie apparently texted her a bunch, to no response. Elena even mentions that it's not like Caroline to miss out on practice like this. Bonnie's just about to try calling her when Caroline rolls up in the passenger seat of a flashy convertible. She's decked out in big sunglasses, a little scarf wrapped around her neck. Very out of place with the shorts and tank top she's wearing to practice. Bonnie puts two and two together that this must be the mystery guy from the grill that Caroline was talking about. But Elena knows exactly who the driver is. Damon Salvatore. Salvatore is in Stefan? Bonnie asks. Elena hasn't exactly filled her in on the strange meeting they had the other day. Despite what we saw happen to her earlier in the episode, Caroline seems perfectly fine. A little too fine, if you ask me. She's peppy, rubbing it in Elena's face that she, quote-unquote, got the other brother, and ready to start cheerleading practice. Like nothing happened at all. After Caroline says that, Elena glances over at Damon. He's still lingering in his convertible, flirtily raising his eyebrows as she gives him the stink eye. Which she should be. He's a visibly 25-plus-year-old man leering at a bunch of teenage girls on school property. It seems like Elena has more pressing matters at the moment, though. Her time off from cheer has left her rusty, and honestly, she seems like she's lost not only in her moves, but has lost the spark that made her want to do this in the first place. She wanders off from practice to watch Stefan's tryout. I know next to nothing about football, but she and Mr. Tanner are excited about what he's doing. And Tyler's in a foul mood, so it must be good. As satisfying as it is, Tyler being pissed isn't necessarily something you want to aspire to. He convinces Matt to help set up a play where Stefan will be leaping for the ball, so Tyler can slam into his body and knock him to the ground. Welcome to the team, he cheers in Stefan's face as he climbs off of him. Matt, who is apparently not as big of a dick in this circumstance, helps Stefan to his feet and takes the blame for what went down. Stefan's a vampire, though, so he's not really in danger of being hurt by any of that, right? Wrong. If you remember, his diet of not feeding on humans makes him significantly weaker than if he were. So yes, his broken pinky finger does heal, but he has to reset it, and it does take longer than usual. Later, at the boarding house, Stefan walks into his room to a rather unwelcome sight. Damon is sat with his feet kicked up onto Stefan's desk, flipping through one of Stefan's mini-journals. He mocks Stefan about football tryouts, about the overly dramatic style of his writing. Stefan zips over and snatches his journal out of Damon's hand. He's understandably not amused. What's Damon doing here anyway? He's here to apologize, he says. Damon's been doing some thinking, and he's decided that he wants to start over, put the past behind them. If a normal life is what will make Stefan happy, that's what Damon wants for him. Maybe he can do it too. Maybe there's hope for both of them. Stefan's expression is so painfully open and earnest listening to him. This is all Stefan's ever wanted. So, of course, Damon starts cracking up. Why would Stefan ever buy something like that coming out of his mouth? Hopefulness, I suppose. Stefan pleads with him. It doesn't have to be this way. Of course it doesn't, Damon says, making it clear that it's his choice to keep up the animosity between them. It's what he wants. He digs the metaphorical knife in a little further by bringing up seeing Elena at cheerleading practice. How cute she looked in her outfit. Stefan bristles, but Damon says not to worry. He didn't even go near Elena. He has his own cheerleader now. And they have a date tonight, unfortunately for Caroline. Stefan does as well, if you remember. Before he arrives, Bonnie and Elena set up the kitchen together. Now that she's been properly spooked by her vision the other day, Bonnie seems a little more willing to buy into the idea of her being a psychic. She's correctly predicting the order of commercials on television, she tells Elena, and even bigger, she's been seeing the same 3 numbers all day long. 8, 14, 22. Isn't that weird? How does Elena respond to this? Well, if you guess that she doesn't take it one bit seriously and suggest that they play the lottery with those numbers, you'd be right. I'd go on about how Bonnie needs to find some better friends, but I'd be wasting my breath. This show does not care about her beyond serving as a plot device. Obviously, she's not amused by Elena's joke. Elena asks if Bonnie's talked to her grandma about it yet, but Bonnie says that she would just tell Bonnie that she's a witch, which is not something she particularly wants to hear. Despite this not being her kitchen, Bonnie is able to perfectly predict where the serving spoons are when Elena goes searching for them. It literally takes her less than a second to guess. Elena brushes it off as Bonnie having been over to the house thousands of times. Before they're able to discuss it any further, the doorbell is ringing and Elena scampers off to go welcome Stefan in. Left alone in the kitchen, Bonnie gives her special abilities one more test. She challenges herself to guess what drawer the birthday candles are in. The first drawer she opens, there they are, the bright box sitting on top of the utensils and seemingly giving Bonnie further proof of what her grandma's been trying to tell her this whole time. Dinner with Stefan is awkward. The 3 of them eat with this thick blanket of tension hanging over the table. Bonnie, too weirded out by her vision to interact with Stefan, a first-time guest trying to be pleasant and polite. Elena is the one to push for conversation, asking Stefan if Mr. Tanner gave him a hard time at the tryout. He says he was accepted into the team, so he must be doing something right. In an attempt to include Bonnie, Elena starts to tell Bonnie about Tyler chucking a football at Stefan that morning, but Bonnie cuts her off. She's heard the story already. Everyone pauses again. This time a look crosses Stefan's face, like he understands there's some sort of barrier Bonnie's putting up because of him. Take 2. Elena suggests that Bonnie tells Stefan about her family, the witches specifically. That snaps Stefan to attention. Mr. lived in the 1800s himself. He mentions to Bonnie that while he's not too versed on the subject, he does know that there's a history of Celtic druids that migrated to Mystic Falls in the 1800s. Maybe thrown off by how knowledgeable Stefan is about this, Bonnie's defenses are a bit softened, and she lets Stefan in on the fact that her family came here by way of Salem. Stefan thinks that's super cool. That surprises Bonnie. We heard it before, the idea of her being a witch seems more like a burden to her than anything else. So why does Stefan think it's cool? Salem witches are heroic examples of individualism and nonconformity, he says, which earns Bonnie's first real, genuine smile of the night. Let's not get too comfortable with this nice moment. It's quickly interrupted by unplanned dinner guests. Caroline and Damon are at the door, inviting themselves to the get-together with an offering of dessert. Stefan swoops in, much more bothered by this turn of events than Elena is. What is Damon doing here? According to him, he's waiting for Elena to invite him in. Duh. A horrible idea, but as Elena has no context about why it would be dangerous, she starts to say those magic words, barely stopped by Stefan's interruption. He can't stay, Stefan insists, locking eyes with Damon and trying to hold his ground by asking, "Can you, Damon?" Poor brainwashed Caroline tells Damon to just get inside already. Thankfully, it's not her house, so that doesn't count as a real invitation. They're actually just finishing up dinner anyway, Stefan reasons. There's no point. No stranger to sibling bullshit. This whole strange verbal tug-of-war seems silly to Elena, and she ends up being the one to shut it down, inviting Damon into the house. This moment is another great example of Damon being an excellent predator. He knows that Stefan is keeping Elena in the dark about their nature, so he uses her lack of knowledge to trap Stefan between a rock and a hard place, ultimately winning more power over the both of them when Stefan can't come up with any viable excuses. Cue the most uncomfortable get-together. acting as a living, breathing piece in Damon's chess game. Caroline is obliviously chatting about football and cheerleading, stirring up drama by being insensitive to Elena about it, as she sometimes can be. Damon says that Elena doesn't seem like a cheerleader type to him, and Caroline says that's just because Elena's parents died. She's clearly going through a quote-unquote blah phase right now. She used to be way more fun. Bonnie and Elena shoot her a pair of silent, scalding looks. This turn of conversation plays right into Damon's hands. He's sorry about Elena's loss, but can empathize with her because he knows what it's like to lose both parents. In fact, both he and Stefan have watched almost every person they've ever cared about die. Not a good time to get into that, Stefan responds. Which only spurs Damon on. He plays apologetic, but makes sure to mention that they wouldn't want to bring her up. Uncomfortably heavy emphasis put on the word her. Let's take a break from this horrible dinner to check in on what's going on at the Mystic Grill. Imagine for a moment, if you will, you are Vicky Donovan. You were recently hospitalized for a vampire attack, but your mother ran off to who knows where, so you still have to work your ass off to support you and your younger brother. And while you're trying to do that, Tyler fucking Lockwood comes up and gropes you while you're on the job. Does she not deserve a sword? Tyler does it right in front of her brother, too. Like, man, please. But don't feel too bad for Matt, because incoming Matt Donovan hater rant coming up in 3, 2, 1. Great guy he is. Matt takes a brief pause from his game of pool to approach a sulking Jeremy about this and says, I shit you not. She's my sister, and I love her, but she can really make you work for it sometimes. Hey, Matt, what the hell does that mean to you? As you just said, she's your sister. Can no one be cool about Vicky for 1 second? The answer is no, of course. Not Jeremy either, because he decides to take a page from Tyler's douchebag playbook and say, I find it pretty easy, actually, before storming off. Storming off right into the waiting shoulder of Tyler Lockwood himself. They snark at each other. It's real nice, Jeremy says, of Tyler to hit him around to impress Vicky. Tyler says he doesn't need to impress Vicky. He already won. That bursts their little will they won't they bubble into actual aggression. Jeremy shoves Tyler. Tyler's all, now you're dead. Not one to back down from a fight, especially with Tyler. Jeremy urges him on. He questions Tyler, points out that it seems like he's always waiting for Tyler to man up. Matt holds Tyler back while he spouts out, next time I see you, threats. Jeremy has to have the last word. It'll actually be the next time he sees Tyler, not the other way around. Which is so teenage guy and funny of them. Stop bumping chests and just do it already. Less funny is Matt turning to a complete innocent bystander, Vicky, who, may I remind you, is on the job right now, to angrily question her, what is she doing? Excuse me, sir, what is she doing? Her job. She isn't begging these guys to fight over her. In fact, she'd be a hell of a lot better off if they both left her alone and took out their macho tension on each other. I swear to God. We'll check back in on that clusterfuck later, back to the Gilbert house. Damon heads into the kitchen under the guise of being helpful and friendly, so he can plant more seeds of doubt. He gets Elena on the subject of Catherine within a few seconds of conversation. He's all too eager to indulge information, of course. Catherine died in a tragic fire. Recently? Damon fudges the truth here, lying by omission. Feels like it was just yesterday. That way, Elena can sit with the uneasy thought that she might be a rebound for Stefan to try to get over his grief. Even though the picture of Catherine that Stefan had was from the 1800s, and she's clearly been out of the picture for a long, long time. Elena has no way of knowing that yet. We get our first moment of Damon seeming almost genuine when Elena asks what Catherine was like. He pauses, seemingly getting lost somewhere far back in his memories before he answers. She was beautiful, Damon says. A lot like Elena in that department, which is just a compliment to Elena, but cheeky for Damon and the audience, as we know that Elena is pretty much a mirror image of Catherine. Beautiful wasn't the only thing Catherine was. In Damon's words, she was also very complicated and selfish, and at times not very kind, but very sexy and seductive. Interesting way to describe his brother's ex. Elena picks up on that too. She asks which one of them dated Catherine first. Hook, line, and sinker. That's exactly where Damon was hoping to lead their chat. He says to ask Stefan, that their answers probably differ. Still processing, Elena distances herself from the conversation, crossing to the kitchen island to make herself busy folding towels, placemats, not quite sure. A more considerate person would sense that she's feeling troubled and give Elena some space, but Damon is not considerate, and he loves targeting weakness, so he follows Elena, picking at the cracks of what Caroline had shared earlier. He tells her she should quit cheerleading. She looked miserable at practice. He's not wrong on that account, at least. Why did she seem so disengaged? Things are different this year, Elena explains. Everything that used to matter doesn't anymore. Very understandable. That kind of loss is bound to make you rethink your priorities. It's an interesting look into Elena's headspace, too. The Vampire Diaries gets compared to Twilight a lot because they were both booming during the young adult vampire craze, but despite some of the writing problems that bog down her character later on, I'm always going to prefer Elena over Bella Swan. She's not an empty fill-in-the-blanks, no interest in other people or past engagements kind of character. She had extracurriculars, friends, and goals. She used to want to be a writer. We just meet her in a time where the guilt and grief that she hasn't dealt with is hanging heavy over her interactions and choices. The depression of it all is a bit more relatable to me. Opening up to Damon actually puts Elena into a place where she's the one who gets to disarm him. It's genuine kindness that does it too. When she says that she's sorry about Catherine, inviting Damon to be able to be vulnerable about it because he lost her too. For once, he's not cracking some quip. There's not a wry smile on his face. Damon just sits in the moment, appreciative. And just like that, with the entrance of Bonnie into the kitchen, looking to help, the moment is over. With those three busy in the kitchen, Caroline and Stefan are left alone in the living room. This gives Stefan a chance to try to figure out if his suspicions about what Damon might be doing with her are true. The signs of her being under compulsion are impossible to miss. When he asks her about the scarf she's wearing, if she would be able to take it off, Caroline answers that she can't, without any kind of second thought about why that might be strange. And upon pressing further, she's not really able to come up with a reason why. Just that she can't. There's a mental block that Damon put in her mind that she can't even question. Of course, Damon doesn't allow them more alone time than that. He interrupts their conversation, urging Caroline to go help the other girls with the dishes. She's not having it. Like, does it look like I do the dishes? And you know what? Good for her. But Damon's not letting it go. He tries his most charming smile, coaxes, wouldn't she do it for him? Still a big no there, which basically depletes Damon's patience with Caroline. He drops the charming act, if you could call it that, and compels her right there in the living room. Poor girl pops up and announces she's going to help Elena with the dishes like it was her own idea. It's frightening how well it works. And to think what else Damon's been convincing Caroline she's willing to do against her will. Once she's gone, Stefan lays into him. Or, well, tries to. Tries to get across the idea that people are not puppets or playthings, not just blood bags to play around with. But that's exactly what humans are to Damon. He says they're whatever he wants them to be. They're his for the taking. Hearing this put into words here, in Elena's house of all places, where Stefan is trying his hand at being human, kind of sobers him to the severity of the situation. It's time for Damon to go. He's got his point across. Caroline's mind has been messed with. Elena's safety's been threatened. Stefan is rattled. Hasn't this been enough? Damon's fine with leaving, because, as he points out to Stefan, he's been invited in now. He can come back tonight and tomorrow night, as he so chillingly promises, to do whatever he wants with Elena, or as he calls her, Stefan's little cheerleader, because that's what's normal to him. As I said before, he's a predator, in the hunting sense and in the sexual sense, and he revels in it. It's easy for him. With the amount of power he has, everyone seems lesser, Stefan included. With that thought still looming, we get a little moment post-dinner with Elena and Stefan up in her room. Oblivious to the impending danger that's been promised for her, she tells him that tonight was fun. Damon really isn't as bad as Stefan makes him out to be. If only she knew. Stefan stops that thought in such a way that you can only get away with if you're a character in a romance, all finger gently tracing over her lip. She pauses, eyes following his touch, and they fall into each other, those thoughts taking second place to kissing. It starts getting hot and heavy. Elena's on top of Stefan, stripping off her shirt. But when it's his turn to lose his, the face that pops out from behind that removed shirt isn't his. It's Damon's. Elena throws herself off of him, screaming in confusion, and wakes up in her bed with a start. Just a bad dream. An odd one for sure, but nothing more. There isn't much to make out when she crosses the room in the dark to go get a drink, which really helps pull attention to the fact that her window is wide open. Curtains waving in the breeze and everything. And sitting on the sill is that same crow that's been a calling card for Damon's nonsense since episode 1. Seems like he made good on his threat earlier and decided to root around in Elena's sleeping mind. Another vampire power to watch out for. That's right. Along with the power to compel victims, a vampire with a healthy diet of human blood is strong enough to influence dreams. Small aside, the dream sequence made me go back and check through to rewatch dinner party moments, check out if Damon and Stefan were actually wearing similar outfits, or if Stefan wearing a black shirt in the dream was meant to be a warning of things being off. But no. Apparently they just so happened to think that black long-sleeved shirts was the right way to go for a casual dinner party. Very matchy-matchy. Which was odd to me, because you'd think they might want to use how these two dress to show their differences, style to personality stuff. So I did squint closer, and I will say that the types of shirts they're wearing are different. Stefan's got a Henley on with a few buttons undone, and Damon's shirt seems to be a crewneck, a little bit more casual. Maybe that reflects on the contrast in their personalities. This is probably me digging too deep into this thought, though. I'm not sure anyone making the show was putting that much thought into giving them distinct looks. In the morning, hopefully she got an alright night of sleep after the major invasion of privacy, Elena looks to be stuck in that same doubt spiral of yesterday, enhanced by Damon's advice, I'm sure. Her cheerleading uniform is all laid out to go for the day, but she swerves away from it, going over to her vanity, where memories of the past stare back at her in pictures. Her family, who she used to be. Can she go back to that girl? Still shook up over the previous night's conversation, Stefan does what he does best, gets introspective and turns to his journal. He writes, "There must be a shred of humanity left inside my brother. Somewhere. I keep hoping, but how do I make him see it? And how do I protect her?" Stefan's reaction to Damon's danger paints a really good picture of their whole song and dance. Damon's promised Stefan eternal suffering, attacked an innocent girl on his first day back in town, threatened to out Stefan as a vampire, and Stefan still wants to dig for the good parts left in Damon. It feels like there's a sort of desperation in his want, almost. No matter how much he complains, how much he asks Damon to leave him alone, no matter how much trouble Damon causes, Stefan hasn't actually done anything about it, almost as if he's terrified of losing Damon, despite how dark he's gotten. As for the protecting Elena bit, Stefan turns to a possible solution in the study. He goes to the shelf, picks up a sturdy-looking wooden box, rifles through it to retrieve, funnily enough, an even smaller wooden box, whose contents are momentarily left as a mystery while we head over to the pre-game tailgate. If there's one thing Mystic Fall loves, it's their parties. The school's going all out with a cheer squad, a bonfire, the promise of underage drinking. Stefan dons his jersey for the first time. Very hot to Elena. She's got a type, apparently. But she is no longer part of the squad. She's ditched her matching maroon uniform for a cute tank top, denim skirt number, and is ragging on herself for being such a quitter. Solid dude that he is, Stefan is very understanding. He tells her none of that. That after suffering such a big loss, she's not the same person. It's okay if she wants to try starting over instead. He then pulls out that same small wooden box we saw him searching for in his room earlier. It's a little too soon for gifts like this, so he hopes it's not too weird of him, but Stefan wanted Elena to have this. This being an ornate circular locket with a swirling pattern on the front. He's had it forever. Never wanted to give it to anyone else before this. If you've seen season 3, you know that isn't completely true, but that's not knowledge Stefan possesses at this moment, so on we chug. Elena's first instinct is to sniff it, give me a little laugh. It smells nice. Is that rose? She asks. Stefan tells her it's a different herb, but doesn't specify which one. Might that have something to do with his plan to protect Elena? To Elena, though, it's just a good luck charm to wear, so Stefan will do good in his first game with the team. He helps her put it on, thanks her for giving him the push he needed to try out for the team. They share a kiss. It's a sweet moment. They can only be squashed by Caroline getting on Elena's case about being out of uniform. We're spared the full speech that she undoubtedly gave, as we flash forward to more of the festivities. The bonfire's at a full roar. The school band is playing. Jeremy is already breaking out the bottle. The team's name's the Timberwolves, by the way. No doubt, just a silly coincidence in this supernatural show. I can't imagine how wolves would come into play at any point in the future. Mr. Tanner is not the person I'd pick to pep everybody up before the game, but he is the coach, so here we are. He's got the school pride and aggression part down, I guess. Surprisingly, he's also a lot more boastful of Stefan than how their earlier interactions would have you imagine. Says it's been a long time since he's seen a kid like this with hands like these. That gets the crowd going pretty good. Unfortunately, it also gets Tyler going. In what way is it fair to start Stefan already? He literally just got here. How do we think Tyler deals with his anger over this situation? Does he A, go bother someone whose fault it isn't, B, say something misogynistic, or C, start a fight? If you picked all of the above, you'd be correct. He breaks off from the crowd to complain at Vicky about the Stefan situation, but before he gets a single word out, his eyes lock onto Jeremy across the lawn, and nothing else in the world matters anymore. They're like a pair of magnets. Vicky's trailing behind him, begging him not to start shit, but he's Tyler, so of course he doesn't listen. He hasn't failed to bring out the big guns off the jump either. The first thing he says to Jeremy is, "Don't look so down. You can have her when I'm done." Which is so, I don't know, man. Jeremy's promise at the grill wasn't an empty one. The words are barely out of Tyler's mouth before Jeremy takes a swing at him. It lands too. Mostly just succeeds in riling Tyler up, though. He slams Jeremy back into a truck, knocking over the bottle he'd just been drinking. And that's just the beginning. After knocking the wind out of Jeremy with his knee, he uses his grip of Jeremy's hoodie to swing him to the ground and starts getting in as many punches as he can, just really not letting up. All the time this is going on, Vicky's getting more and more frantic about calling it off. With her troubled voice and the ruckus they're making, the crowd starts to turn away from the festivities to focus on the fight. In between hits, Jeremy shifts the tide for a second and gets Tyler on his back for a few shots of his own. But that only lasts so long before Tyler's on top of him again. Probably the best choice to break up a fight, Stefan heads into the fray. He tells Tyler to let up, grabs him by the arm. Maybe it's first instinct, or maybe Tyler's just embarrassed that somebody would try to stand up to him, but he takes a swing at Stefan for this. Stefan takes the shot to the ribs like a champ. No flinch or grimace or step back, which freaks Tyler. That should have hurt. Would have if it were anyone else. Still on the ground, Jeremy scrambles for the broken bottle, and as Elena bursts through the crowd, he lunges forward, just barely missing his target as Stefan avoids Tyler's punch. This leaves Stefan's palm sliced open, and Tyler to be restrained by Matt, which is really the best outcome any of them could have hoped for. If Stefan hadn't stepped in, Jeremy could be a 15-year-old with a murder charge, and Tyler could be dead. Elena rushes over to Jeremy to check him out, or to try. Jeremy's drunk and pissed off and doesn't want any of her help, even if his nose is gushing blood. You can lead a horse to water. Him not accepting Elena's help does give her a moment to go see how Stefan fared in the fight. Better think of something good, Mr. Quick Healing. He tucks his hand behind his back, insisting he's fine. Elena's not taking no for an answer, though. There's been enough bullshit tonight. She grabs Stefan's hand, uncurls his fist, and sees absolutely nothing. No gash, not even some blood. If you look real close, there's a faint red line across his palm like he has an old, faded scrape, but that's it. Like anybody would be, Elena's dumbfounded. She was right there when Stefan got cut open. She saw it with her own two eyes. And even when Stefan has to do some low-key gaslighting to protect his identity as a vampire, it's still hard for her to believe. What an awkward way to have to leave things off, too. Stefan has to run off to go get ready for the game, and Elena gets to stand around and catalog her own memory, stewing in confusion. She doesn't linger for long. She's smarter than that. Instead, Elena does what she already should have been doing and drops her skepticism enough to go question Bonnie about the weird, magic-y reaction she'd had to Stefan. It's Bonnie's turn to be too chill this time. Forget about that, Bonnie tells Elena. Stefan totally won her over at their dinner party. Now's not the time for being agreeable. If Bonnie saw something, right now would be a great time to share it. When Elena presses, Bonnie tells her that it wasn't a clear picture. Sort of like how those three numbers, 8, 14, 22, have been looming over her all day long. When Bonnie touched Stefan, she got a feeling. A cold, consuming, body vibrating feeling of death, or what she imagines death to be like. Maybe you all should have been taking Bonnie's abilities seriously a little sooner. If Stefan makes Bonnie feel like that, one can only wonder what fright she'd get from Damon. Probably the same kind that Elena gets when he pops up out of nowhere while she's returning some things to the car. He does it on purpose, of course. A situation isn't his to win unless he's got everybody else unsettled first. Elena calms a bit at the fact that it's him and not some stranger that jumped her, but that only lasts so long before Damon has to ruin the moment by, well, being Damon. Why is he in the parking lot instead of watching the game? He says he's hiding from Caroline, needed a break, because she talks more than he can listen. Elena chuckles, polite and uncomfortable, replies that could be a sign. Laying on the sleaze, Damon makes the excuse that Caroline's awfully young. That could be a sign too, sir. It's almost as if you wanted someone mature, you could be dating someone in your age bracket. Not even vampire-wise, just like of legal age. When Elena points out that Caroline isn't that much younger, Damon persists, going on about how he doesn't see it going anywhere in the future. Caroline would probably drive him crazy. That right there is kind of the breaking point of Elena's politeness. As someone who's known Caroline for so long, she knows that Caroline can be annoying. But they've been friends since the first grade, and that means something to her. Damon pretends to backpedal. He apologizes for making Elena uncomfortable. That wasn't his intention. But it is, Elena argues. Why else would he put an alternate meaning behind everything he says? She's right, Damon admits with this smarmy, patronizing smile. He does have other intentions, but so does Elena, he says. Elena rolls her eyes, rightfully so. But on Damon charges, playing his flirty game of lowering his voice to a conspiratorial tone, asserting this idea that he's trying to pull over her head that she wants him. Elena physically recoils with the sheer cockiness of his statement and just how inappropriate this whole exchange has been. Damon tries to turn that disgust into something else, that he's under her skin. He gets to her. Elena is drawn to him. She thinks about him even when she doesn't want to. He bets she even dreams about him. Which isn't fair at all, because we know that he uses powers to insert himself into her dreams. It does give Elena a pause for just a moment, though. How the hell would Damon know that? And that's when Damon decides to go in for the proverbial kill. Using his compulsion, he tries to convince that Elena, what she's feeling right now, is how much she wants to kiss him. Elena holds his stare as Damon starts to lean in, her eyes dropping to his lips for just a moment, and then she rears back and slaps him across the face. Pretty hard, too. It was satisfying. She doesn't know what kind of game Damon is trying to play with Stefan, but she doesn't want to be part of it. What happened in the past doesn't matter to her because she is not Catherine. Then Elena stomps away, leaving Damon with his bruised ego and a jaw that will, unfortunately, be just fine. Looks like whatever herb that Stefan put into her necklace is resistant to compulsion. That'll come in handy again in the future, I feel. Good on Elena for making it clear that this whole conflict isn't hers to be tangled up in. All of the strings Damon is pulling are to the ends of his goals, getting back at Stefan, perhaps a secret second agenda as well, but they certainly don't involve caring for anyone else's wants and desires. This is a Salvatore problem. Everybody in general vicinity is just collateral. Not a bad way to boil down most of what happens in the show, honestly. In a shocking turn of events, Matt Donovan feels like not being a dickhead at this moment in time, and checks in on Stefan. If he'll be okay to play, even thanks Stefan for having Jeremy's back in that fight, and apologizes for being a dick to Stefan at practice. Nothing works wonders on making you consider what a shitty person you're being than watching your best friend beat the shit out of your ex's little brother, I suppose. Stefan doesn't even get to bask in the nice feeling of that beef being squashed for 1 minute. Damon's been there the whole time, lingering in the shadows of the alleyway, listening in. Naturally, he makes fun of Stefan playing human. Says Stefan joining the team and making a friend is all very rah-rah, go team, yeah, his words. Stefan's less than amused. Basically tells Damon to bother him some other time and walks away. That's too easy though, isn't it? 2 people can't blow off Damon's nonsense in one night. He follows Stefan, uses his speed to cut him off and stop him in his tracks. He's impressed by Stefan's trick with the necklace. It's been a long time since someone's been able to resist his compulsion. We get a name for the herb that was so helpful in this case, vervain. Damon wants to know where Stefan found some. Does it matter? Stefan snarks and makes another attempt at escape. But Damon knows which buttons of Stefan's to press too well. He suggests the idea that he might be able to seduce Elena the old-fashioned way, or if that doesn't work, he could just eat her. With an air of confidence that we haven't quite seen him exhibit in the presence of Damon yet, Stefan turns around and insists, so sure of himself, that actually Damon isn't going to hurt Elena. Damon has a part of himself deep down inside that feels for her. Stefan admits that there was a part of him that was worried Damon didn't have any humanity left, and that he may actually have become the monster he pretends to be. Damon cuts him off with a smirk. Who's pretending? Stefan calls his bluff on that. Why doesn't Damon just kill him, right now? He doesn't even humor Damon's quippy attempt of acting like the reason that hasn't happened is because he just can't be bothered at the moment. Damon's had lifetimes to kill Stefan points out, but he's still here, and so is Damon, still haunting Stefan 145 years later. That's his sign of Damon's humanity. The Damon is clinging to his hatred of Stefan over the loss of Catherine, that he hasn't stopped torturing Stefan because that love is still there. I'm not sure if it's noble or a sign of disguised self-hatred that Stefan's so cool with being punished for the rest of eternity in the hopes of preserving Damon's humanity. I'm kind of pendulum swinging between the two thoughts. What kind of comeback does Damon have for that truth bomb? We don't actually get to find out what he originally intended, because Mr. Tanner wanted to make an ass out of himself one final time and comes out into the alley to shout at Stefan about how they have a game to play already. That horrible man was useful for one thing, I'll say. He gives Damon the chance to do 2 of the things he loves the most. Be sassy and make a point through an act of violence. Damon says, if that's my humanity, then what's this? And pounces on Mr. Tanner, ripping his throat out in a flash. R.I.P., you will not be missed. Teeth and lips still stained with Mr. Tanner's blood, Damon puts to words his sacrificial warning. Anytime, anyone, any place. Looks like appealing to his deeper feelings won't be quite so easy. Back in the locker room, Tyler is pointing out that Mr. Tanner's gone MIA, so maybe he will be missed a little, or more accurately, his presence as the football team's only coach will be missed. To be honest, Tyler's pretty casual about it anyway, suggests that Mr. Tanner might have drank too much beer. Not Mr. Tanner related, Matt blows up on him. He doesn't want to talk right now, he's pissed at Tyler. Totally oblivious to his own tornado-like behavior as of late, Tyler asks what Matt's problem is. Matt's problem, of course, is Tyler. It just seems like it just dawned on him how out of line Tyler's gotten. And all it took, he admits, was Tyler taking his anger out on Stefan, screwing with Vicky, and beating up, Matt's words, not mine, his girlfriend's kid sister. Not to be toxic, but Tyler is kind of funny here, being all girlfriend. I don't know how to tell you this, but Elena dumped your ass. I mean, he's right, but he didn't have to pick this moment in time to be so nitpicky about Matt's choice of words. Matt seems to think so too, because he straight up slams Tyler up against the locker. Then he gives Tyler the space to think about how he's been acting. Unlikely that that'll change anytime soon. And steps outside to get some air. You know who else is outside? Don't get excited. Matt isn't going to become a vampire snack, but he is going to discover the remains of one. At least Mr. Tanner's corpse didn't have to wait too long to get discovered. He's less of a problem in death than he was in life. We also don't have to wait any longer to find out why Bonnie was seeing those numbers. As she watches the police clear up the scene, tearful-eyed, she sees that Mr. Tanner was killed outside of Building 8, in front of a car whose license plate reads FHT14, and next to the parking space 22. Seems like Miss Bonnie Bennett is a bona fide witch after all. Tough way to find out. Out by the cleared bleachers, Jeremy is nursing his aching head with a cool can of what I can only assume is beer. Vicky rounds the corner and crouches down to be eye level with where he sprawled out on the ground. It's taken her all day and a lot of bad circumstance and thought to come to this, but she finally lets him know that no, she wasn't just sleeping with Jeremy for the drugs. She leaves it at that, but even that is enough to put a smile on Jeremy's busted-up face. The puzzle pieces of the recent bizarre events aren't quite fitting together for Elena anymore. What kind of animal could be doing all this? Why would it come out of the woods and attack someone in the middle of town? Stefan can't offer an adequate answer. Without giving up all of his secrets, of course, and he's not about to do that right now. So all he can do is hold Elena and give her the sentiment that they're fine. And that's all that matters at the moment. When Stefan finally gets a moment alone at the end of the day, he has to admit to himself that they are, in fact, probably not going to be fine. Eyebrows drawn together in worry, clutching his pen so tightly, he writes in his journal, I thought there was hope, that somewhere deep inside something in Damon was still human, normal, but I was wrong. There's nothing human left in Damon, no good, no kindness, no love, only a monster who must be stopped. The second half of his monologue is being played over a shot of Damon watching Elena sleep and gently brushing a stray hair off her cheek, which we as an audience are meant to find sweet and see it as an assurance of the opposite. But seeing as the guy does not give a rat's ass about consent, doesn't make me feel any of those things personally. Whether Damon was about to prove Stefan right or wrong about the state of his humanity remains unseen, because at his slight touch, Elena wakes up, sending Damon off into the night and bringing our episode to an end. Reading back over this script is really funny, because the way I talk about quite a few of the characters would have you believe that I hate them, when in reality, the only character of the ones I've discussed so far that I don't eventually connect with on some level, other than Mr. Tanner, is Matt. That stems from two areas, I think. One being his ultimate uselessness as a character. To me, it feels like the logical conclusion of his arc would be dying in an early season, maybe at the end of this one, to signal the rising stakes and that life will never be as simple and innocent ever again for our main cast. The other is his misogyny. Yes, this show is already oozing it from every orifice, But why it's easier to zoom in on Matt sometimes is because the show seems to think it's not a problem with him. Meanwhile, he has such low compassion for his own sister that it makes me sick. The same kind of energy, worse honestly, coming from Damon is not as shocking because at the moment, Damon isn't meant to be seen as a totally sympathetic character. We're supposed to be disgusted and scared of how he preys on women. Of course, that becomes a problem later on with other storylines, but we're not even close to scratching that surface yet. We'll get there when we get there. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you'll join me again for the next one. Bye-bye.